everybody? How is everybody doing? Monday, December 30th, 2024. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. All the big news of the day. Obviously, Jimmy Carter passing away. The bird flu has people running scared, even though nobody seems to care about it. BLM takes to the streets in New York City, and we go over the top 10 hoaxes of the year. Super excited to be back with all of you guys. Obviously, I was out on Friday. I had a bit of a medical issue. I ruptured my gallbladder, which I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was something one could do, but I was rushed in for emergency surgery. So it's good to be back here with all of you. I want to thank you all so much for all the messages and all the prayers and all the comments on Facebook. And I was monitoring it as I was in for that emergency surgery. That sucked. I got to be honest with you. That sucked something awful. Still not totally recovered from it, but we will get along. The only thing I really can do is laugh for some reason. That hurts more than anything else. Laughing seems to be the most painful thing I can do right now. So unfortunately, today will not be all too funny of a show because I can't laugh, which, you know, for anyone who knows me knows that absolutely and totally sucks. So I want to say thank you to everybody as we pop the live chat up onto the screen. Jeanette, Donna, how are you? Nick, how are you? I want to just thank everybody. Bad Moon wants to make me laugh, even though I just said I can't do that. Not very nice. Not very nice indeed. Caps, thank you all so much. All of you, really, the well wishes I got were amazing. So thank you all so much for that. Mirth is going to try not to make me laugh in the chat today. It sucks that of all the things I can't do, it's my favorite thing in the world. So, Deborah, hello. Deborah McCluskey, how are you? Yeah, no, you know, like I said, it sucks. I've had to avoid funny Instagram reels all day, but I should be back up and running over the next few days. So hopefully things are going well. Things are going well. Also, later in the show, we are going to be joined by the soon-to-be president of the Omaha, Nebraska Young Republicans, Haley McAnally. I say her last name wrong every time, but we're going to be joined by my friend Haley. She's running for the chairman of the Omaha, Nebraska Young Republicans. And some of you may be asking, why does it matter in Omaha, Nebraska? Well, for any of you who have been paying attention for the last few months, you know that Omaha is the one district in Nebraska that could have decided this election. So having a good activist base in that area is going to be critical. So make sure you guys give Haley a follow. All of her socials will be in the chat below. But let's dive right in because obviously we've got some news that we've got to get to today. We got some news we got to get to. Today, once again, I do want to thank everybody so much for all of the love. Let's dive in because right off the bat today, excuse me, Joe Biden announced on his way out the door, man, January 20th can't come soon enough. January 20th literally can't come soon enough. Joe Biden has announced an additional $2.5 million in security assistance for Ukraine. This aid includes $1.5 billion drawdown package for the Ukrainian military and a $1.22 billion Ukrainian Assistance Initiative package. So on his way out the door, Joe Biden has to make sure that he leaves the money on the nightstand as we continue to pay for a war that is never going to be won. With the end of the year and the end of his presidency looming, Joe Biden on Monday announced an additional $2.5 billion in security for Ukraine. The aid, as I said, includes security assistance initiatives. Biden said that this aid will, quote, provide Ukraine with both immediate influx of capabilities and that continues to use in great effect on the battlefield and long-term supplies of air defense and artillery and other critical weapon systems. Of course, this comes as the United States has a serious problem with our own budget as we look to raise the debt ceiling once again. Sorry if I'm talking kind of low here, guys. It's just something we're going to have to deal with for the next long while. But obviously, we dealt with a looming debt ceiling issue. America continues to take out more debt than it brings in, causing serious backlash amongst the America First base with people like Mike Johnson. Now, look, just a heads up, and I'm going to keep saying this out loud. If you didn't like Mike Johnson and what he did before in the last term, you're not going to like it this time. He has an even smaller majority than he did in the 2022 cycle, with only being able to lose one vote. So unfortunately, he's going to have to either deal with Democrats or make concessions to the America First base. We've already seen many Republicans come out and question whether or not they're going to vote for Speaker Johnson in the upcoming year. We've seen people like Nancy Mace and Corey Mills and Troy Nehls come out and say they're not sure how they're going to vote. We've seen people like Thomas Massie outright come out and say that they are not going to vote for him in this upcoming speaker fight. Now, with all that being said, Donald Trump has endorsed Mike Johnson for speaker, which is something from a practical level I completely and totally understand. Now, I don't have to like it. I don't. But will we see a prolonged and entrenched speaker fight this go-around like we saw with Kevin McCarthy? One can only wait and see. One can only wait and see, but it also comes down to what is going to be better moving into the first 100 days of President Trump's term. Do we want that sort of a fight leading into all of this? Some might say yes. Some might say no. I'd like to see Donald Trump get off to a rip-roaring start and not have to deal with the controversy in his first 100 days in session. That doesn't mean we have to like what Speaker Johnson is doing. However, he seems to have the president's full-throated endorsement. Whether or not I like that, whether or not you like that, remains to be seen. But we're starting to get a picture of what may be happening over the course of the next several months. And ironically enough, Tucker Carlson sat down with Tom Homan a while back and had some pretty interesting ideas on what we could do with some of these illegal immigrants if some of them are unable to be deported. Here was Tucker Carlson.
Is there any way to move millions of Haitians into rich white liberal neighborhoods? I mean it. The people who did this are rich white liberals in the United States who hate themselves and the country. And to punish it, they invited all these people illegally from failed countries. But they can't stand the idea of living near these people because they're racist. So why wouldn't you move every Haitian to Bethesda and Brookline and Aspen and Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket like today? Can we do that? I will donate money if we can do that.
We absolutely could. Look what the Martha's Vineyard did. They put them on there, kind of like, this whole thing.
They called the cops immediately because they're racist.
Governor Abbott done more to secure this border than anybody in this administration. Guy's great. DeSantis the same. Do you know who first came up with the idea of busing people in sanctuary cities? It was President Trump. I remember sitting in the Oval Office one time. He said, "Why don't we do that?" So we started putting plans together. But the Remain in Mexico program was such a game changer, we couldn't fill a bus up if we wanted to. So we beat the problem before we got to that. That was really
the problem, though, is that the people doing it didn't have a precise enough understanding of rich white liberal culture, but I do. So they would bus them to New York, then they wind up in Midtown and Queens. Okay, none of the people who are doing this were affected by it. But I could give you a list of zip codes where, like, Tony Blinken lives and stuff like that, because I know that world. They need to be moved into the neighborhoods of the people who are calling you racist for wanting to have laws and borders. Like, they need to feel the effects of their own destruction. So just text me and I will send you the zip codes. I mean it too. Because what happened is they opened the borders and then all these people like moved to Jackson, Wyoming, to the least diverse zip codes in the country. They literally ran to the hills to get away from diversity.
I think we need to add to that, though, the senators and congressmen are pushing back on inboard border security.
100%.
Moving illegal aliens right outside of the Vice President Kamala Harris's residence, that was a game changer too. So I think not only those who well financed. How about the politicians who are pushing back against any form of enforcement of our border laws?
Well, that's why Bernie Sanders needs a ton of Haitians in Vermont, because it's blindingly white. It needs to change. I couldn't agree more.
First off, I think that's absolutely hilarious. I think it's absolutely hilarious, not only to move these immigrants to the places where politicians have so long begged for them, but he's right. Tucker is right once again. Vermont is just way too white, so I think we ought to drop off some illegal immigrants, some illegal Haitians in Burlington, Vermont, and see how much Bernie Sanders likes it. Do it to all of these people, because as Tucker said, the people who push for these policies never have to deal with the consequences of their actions. And look, do I think that we're going to be able to deport 20 million people on the first day? No. Do I think it's going to be an arduous process? Absolutely. Do I think we start with the criminals? 100%. Bingo, bango. Bang them right out of the country real quick. But for the ones who would like to be relocated, I would have no problem dropping them all off in Aspen. That wouldn't be an issue for me whatsoever. Drop them right off in Aspen and see what happens. See how long these people seem to like it. Now, something else that's been happening over the course of the last several days, obviously there's been a bit of a slow news cycle, has been this concept of H-1B visas. And Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have stepped in it. They've stepped in it quite a bit, one could say. We're going to get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, Mike Lindell.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog beds.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. If you're watching on Rumble, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching on Facebook, do me a favor and hit the @ button, that little A with the circle. Tag your followers in the chat so that they can pick up on all of the news. Also, if you're watching on X, do me a favor and repost it. Hit the like button, hit the repost button. Really helps us grow the show. I really do appreciate it. I want to say hello to everybody. Sammy Yoakum, how's it going? Marissa, what's happening? Angela, how are you? Kathy, Jen, how are you? If you're watching in the Facebook chat, let me know you're watching. Leave a comment so I can say hello. Steph, how are you? Please just shut down all immigration for now. Start over. Yes, that is going to be the topic that we are going to talk about when it comes to the H-1B visas. See, the problem, and we'll get to it in a minute. Jeanette, how are you? Callie, how are you? Savvy, what's happening? Wow, we got a bunch of former guests in the chat right now. Very excited. Very exciting stuff. Good. Also, make sure you guys stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to be joined by the host of Flashpoint on OAN, Chanel Rion. I've been on her show a bunch of times, so I'm very excited to have her on this show as well. Once again, guys, do me a favor, share the video out all over the place. K-Mac, what's happening? So the H-1B visas have been a controversial subject in America for quite some time. The concept of H-1B visas came in around 1990 when we began importing high-skilled workers into America, mostly from Southeast Asia and India. These would be tech engineers and people of that ilk. Now, there's two schools of thought here. Obviously, and we've done this for quite some time in this country, we have always imported the best and the brightest from all over the world to make our country better. We've done this for time immemorial. The other school of thought is these jobs should be held for American workers. Now, I think you can hold two thoughts in your head at the exact same time. Do we want the best and the brightest here working in American companies to spur American ingenuity and to bring on new growth in the tech sector? Absolutely. Because if we don't take them, then some other country will. We did this with Einstein. We did this with Oppenheimer. We did this with, maybe not Oppenheimer. We did it with Einstein. We did it with scientists at the beginning of the Cold War. We did it with astrophysicists to help get us to the moon. We've done this forever. Now, with that exact same principle being said, do I think that the H-1B process needs reforming? 100% I do. I think far too many people are abusing this system. I think far too many people will be abusing this system for their own gain. Now, do I think we should provide some sort of tax deduction, some sort of tax credit, some sort of incentive to American companies to hire American workers first? Absolutely. If we're going to have affirmative action on the basis of race or gender, then I think we ought to have it for citizenship. Now, there are some people out there, shockingly enough, on MSNBC, who are making the stupidest possible argument imaginable about this. Here is Rick Wilson, the guy who claims to be a Republican, who says that it's really just hillbillies out there who think that if it weren't for brown people, they would be the head engineer over at Google.
It's an inevitability that the hyper-populist, non-college educated part of Trump's base, which is the plurality at the minimum, a majority if you take certain arguments, we're always going to be preconditioned to believe that the word immigration or the word visa always in their minds means brown people bad. And so they have this belief that the guy with the GED and his fake Oakley sunglasses, his goatee and his pickup truck, the universal Twitter bro that you see in every avatar on Twitter, that guy's thinking to himself, oh, well, I could have been the senior software designer at Google if only it weren't for DEI or immigration. It's absurd, but now you see these people that rely on that as a core part of their business, just like Donald Trump does, also, by the way, for service staff at Mar-a-Lago and other resorts. You see this conflict. It's going to eventually, the hyper-populists, they don't really care about the more sophisticated arguments about H-1B or O-1 visas. They care around people bad. That's their whole driving conditioning they've had from Fox for years.
Now, it's almost hard to believe that this network is absolutely dying. When they bring on people like Rick Wilson, I want to be clear. When it comes to immigration, I don't really care what color you are. I don't care what language you speak, and I don't care from what nation you hail from. The fact remains is that it happens to be non-white people who are flooding into this country. If we were living 200 years ago, I was actually watching something the other day about the Irish potato famine. And I want to put this into context. In the 10 years of the Irish potato famine between 1845 and 1855, 2.1 million immigrants came to America over the course of 10 years. That's like 3 months' worth of illegal immigration under the Biden administration. Obviously, the numbers are completely unsustainable. So, with that all being said, do I think we need an absolute halt to any of the visa programming as we go forward? Absolutely. I think a lot of these need to be reassessed. And I've said it, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, is that I don't think a lot of these programs need to be done away with. I think a lot of them need to be paused, looked over, and adjusted. Because just getting rid of things like that is never going to be, the snap of a finger is never going to happen. And I'm not telling you guys what I want to happen. I'm telling you guys what is a reality. I'm simply telling you what is an absolute reality. I think a lot of these programs need to be looked over. I know when I went to, for my local audience, you'll know this, I went to Stony Brook University, which has a very, very high Korean population, which I have no issue with. You want to come here, you want to learn, that's totally fine. What tends to happen is, though, and this is a big problem, is that many immigrants will come to the country, take advantage of our education system, and then take that knowledge and go back to the country from whence they came. Many of them will take out some sort of loan program and then default on those loans because they know they're never coming back. If you go to med school here in America and then you just go back to South Korea, you never have to pay the debt that you took out. So what does that lead to? It leads to Americans having to subsidize it. It takes up spots for American citizens. But I also think this is cultural in terms of Americans. As I said, I went to Stony Brook University with a very high Asian population. If you went to the math department, if you went to the science department, if you went to the engineering department, the majority of the people in those classes were Asian or Indian. If you went to the sociology, the political science, the journalism, the criminology, the useless majors, the English literature, the theater majors, many of them tended to be white. I think what would behoove Americans moving forward is that if you have a child who is smart enough to go to school for some sort of engineering degree, to push them into a more productive field than, lesbian dance theory. Push them into more productive field than English literature. Push them into a more productive field than social work or early childhood education. Jobs that tend not to pay very well. And jobs that are flooded with American workers. Now, not everyone's going to go to school to be an engineer. I know I'm certainly not going to. But I think if we as a culture collectively started to make that a priority, then we could begin to see an influx of American workers in this particular sector. Now, with all that being said, I think Elon and Vivek did a very piss-poor job of clarifying their position on this. Obviously, they work in the tech sector, so they're going to have a different view on this than most Americans do. Steph says, yes, my political science degree is worthless. As is mine. As is mine. Leah Hunt says, I sure hope my nephew goes to school for engineering. I hope he does too. Because, look, there are jobs out there to be had. And I would very much rather have many of these computer engineers, these computer science people, working at many of these big tech platforms. I would much rather them be American citizens, holding American values. Perhaps that is what could have helped us protect rights like free speech, concepts like free speech, rather than importing workers from around the world who don't seem to view things exactly the same way we do. It's a very nuanced topic, and it's going to take a lot of discussion, but the key takeaway from this is that, look, this just proves all the idiots wrong who want to say things like MAGA is a cult and they'll do whatever the leader says. Because we disagreed with him. When we disagreed with the people like Elon, like Trump, and like Vivek, we disagreed with them publicly. And we have absolutely no problem doing that. Absolutely no problem doing that whatsoever. Guys, in just a second, we are going to be joined by my friend Haley McAnally. She's going to be the new chairwoman of the Omaha Young Republicans. Super excited to introduce her to you guys. Before we get to that,
The biggest benefit, honestly, has been with my skin. Skin was more hydrated, more radiant.
This is the best superfood that you could take.
It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking this.
I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum. It is amazing.
You gotta take it.
If you want to try it, try arma.com.
Guys, start feeling better today with the superfood formula over at tryarmra.com/LFATV. That's tryarmra.com/LFATV to get 15% off your first order, guys. Look, you're not getting the nutrients you need every day. Let's be honest. So head on over to tryarmra.com/LFATV. That's tryarmra.com/LFATV. Guys, we will be back in 1 second. Stay tuned. Alrighty, guys, we are back. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to somebody that I met last week at the Turning Point USA conference. As I told you guys, Turning Point USA, particularly AmFest, is like Republican summer camp. You guys are gonna meet, if you guys go there, you're gonna meet some lifelong friends. You're gonna meet activists and people involved in the movement from all over the country. And you guys know I'm a city boy from here in New York, but I got to meet the next chairwoman of the Omaha Young Republicans. Guys, please say hello to my friend and the former Miss Nebraska, Kaylee McAnally. How are you?
Hello, how's it going?
How's it going, Hal? Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
So, as I said, the next chairwoman of the Omaha Young Republicans. I got to be honest with you. We were talking about Omaha, Nebraska politics, and a guy born in Queens. I never thought I would say this sentence. I can't wait to come campaign in Nebraska. But you're running for Young Republican chairwoman of Omaha, which is an interesting place because people think Nebraska, they think hard Republican, but Omaha is a bit of a blue city. There, you got a congressman that's been a little wishy-washy. We'll say generously. So, why don't you tell us about what's going on out in the Cornhusker State?
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Nebraskan. I think I've successfully convinced Kevin to finally come to the great Cornhusker State, so we're very excited to host him. So I've lived in Omaha almost my entire life. And one thing about Nebraska is that we don't have winner take all. So if you guys are familiar with the Electoral College, all of your Electoral College votes go to whomever wins the entire state. In Nebraska, it goes by congressional districts. So if you ever see a map after an election, you always see Nebraska is red, then it has one blue dot, and that blue dot is Omaha. And my heart lies in Omaha. We have so many young people, and thanks to the Trump effect, now young people are activated, they're motivated, they're excited to be involved in politics. So I happened upon the Omaha Young Republicans a few years ago when I ran for the state legislature, and loved that there was this group of young people that could truly make an impact in my state. And since then, I've been involved. And now that the chairmanship is up for election this year, I've been very blessed to have great relationships around the country with other YR chapters and chapter leaders that have really poured into me and mentored me, and hopefully will be a part of when I win on January 7th for the Omaha Young Republican chair.
You know, it's so great. Everyone watching knows that I'm on the advisory board of the New York City Young Republicans, and it's so great to see because there is not only an upheaval in American conservatism and American Republican politics, but we're seeing it more on the younger level also, and we're seeing it across the nation with the Young Republican chairmanship going up. You guys, those of you regular viewers, you know my friend Peter Junta is running for the president of that, which I can't wait for. Love Peter to death. I say he's got the hardest job in politics because he has to, on both sides, he has to deal with the party, and then he has to deal with me and Gavin Wax, which I don't know how he juggles that with only two hands. But you also ran for local office in your area. You came up a little bit short last time.
I did.
But it's so great to see young people actually wanting to engage, wanting to get involved in the process, wanting to run. I mean, it is it's unbelievable to see. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what it was like when you ran? It turns out you had a bit of a catchy slogan for your campaign, which, as I said, some consultant would have charged $100,000 for that. But I want you to tell everybody about like what it's like to actually jump in, because everyone says, "I want to run, I want to do this," but then when they do it, it turns out it's not so much what they thought it was.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually one of the platforms I have running for Omaha Chair in the first place is the elect part of my platform. And I want to get young people elected. However, I think that we're finding our space and that footing is a little difficult. So when I decided to run, I actually was an independent at the time. I didn't really even realize that I was a Republican yet. I liked Donald Trump at the time. I was actually originally back in the day a Bernie supporter. So my timeline is a little everywhere, but we love it. I think I ended up on the right side of history. But I one day just looked at what was going on in our country, and this was 2021. So COVID was just raging throughout our country, and I am a fierce advocate for medical freedom in general, of course, but the First Amendment, we were seeing people being censored on the internet. We were seeing masks be demanded places. People were losing their jobs because of vaccine mandates. And I said, I don't really care what my age is. I just know in my heart and my principle and my faith that everything going on, this narrative created around COVID was wrong. And the government was too big. And that's how I realized that I was a conservative. And I just went 2 feet in. I didn't really know a whole lot about the state legislature. I just knew that they made laws. That's about it. I thought it was just a bunch of wealthy individuals that just crowded around a table drinking whiskey and smoking cigars, and that was it. That's how we got the laws in our land. And I decided to run, and I had a very grassroots campaign, which was my heart's joy. We met a ton of Omahans who realized that they also were conservative, but no one had bothered to even talk to them the way Donald Trump talks to people that feel forgotten about. And so that's what I did. My whole campaign was activating young people, especially young women. The abortion issue is huge for me since I had an abortion about 11 years ago now. So that was a huge issue for me. And my pro-life stance on that came from a very heartfelt and compassionate place and won a lot of votes for us. And we had pink signs. I was the youngest female to run in that seat, which is such a great thing for me. We did come up a little short, 115 votes against an incumbent, which is, for my first time with almost no support from any of the establishment. That was fantastic for our little group of grassroots, our grassroots campaign there. And then, like I told Kevin this weekend, we had our very last candidate forum. And I didn't really know where the vibe was with the whole establishment because there was grassroots and establishment there. So I ended my closing statement by saying, in Nebraska, we love our guns big and our government small. And I got a standing ovation for it. I think it probably put me on the trajectory to have further campaigns within the state. And one of the reasons that I'm running for Omaha YR chair is because I gained a lot of support through that campaign and just the grittiness and the willingness to do the hard work and the thankless things that go on.
That whole story is incredible. Just because, over the last couple of days, we've been talking about how there's this sort of uprising going on between the populist left and the populist right. You say you're a former Bernie supporter, and I've long said I have no issue with people who support Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. It is we on Monday's show we showed a lot of Cenk Uygur at Turning Point, and I'm sitting here going, look, I got to be honest with you, I am not comfortable with how often I have been agreeing with Cenk Uygur recently. Right. But I'll go to the mats with him on guns and abortion and minimum wage and the size and the scope of government. But on the places that we all agree, we should be able to come together and say, let's ban stock trading amongst elected officials. Let's get rid of the lobbying corps. Let's stop promoting big pharma on television the way we don't promote cigarettes. Or, you can't sell alcohol near a school. You can't, there's so many restrictions that make complete sense. You got all of these drug companies making money hand over fist, and then, as we've seen in the news, unfortunately, some people take matters into their own hands and shoot people in the back. But Right. It's horrifying that people get to that sort of stage. But to see the sort of impact that at least young Republican organizations have had across the country, really fighting back against the establishment and showing people that there is a new way of coming. I often joke around that I am I'll put this delicately. I'm not welcome in my local Young Republican chapter, but I'm welcome in the city because those are the harder. Those are the look. I'll say it. You're not saying it. Those are the hardest working Young Republicans out there, and I'm proud to be on their board. It is and it's exciting to see that people like you are beginning to spread that sort of message across the country, and to a blue city in a red state like Omaha, where you can really make a dent.
Yeah, we're very excited. And, I know I have a very unconventional approach to a lot of politics. I'm not your average politician. I said this all throughout my campaign. I'm a personal trainer by trade. That's what I do. I lost 130 pounds, have trained women for over a decade, which has nothing to do with politics. But it turns out, and this was one thing I really stressed to young people while I was running, is just because you don't have an interest in politics and government will always have an interest in you. So it's your duty as an American, especially as a young person who's carrying the torch into next generations and this legacy. We have a responsibility to be involved. And at the end of the day, when I was at the New York Young Republicans Club Gala, you could see that fire and that momentum that's going. And I'm inspired by that. I love a good gala, but I love the activism. I love including our city and our community and doing philanthropy work. That's one thing that's so important to me that we just unfortunately don't have an arm that's doing in our current club that I would really like to change.
Well, I cannot wait to see you elected the chairwoman of the Omaha Young Republicans. Just because, look, there's so many of us out there that want to do good activism and they want to get involved. But I know for me personally, there's not a lot of resources. When I look around the country, and look, I told you I will come help you if you ever run for public office again, just in case that's in the future. But I would love to come out there and help, but there's, I can't just land in Dubuque or Boise or, Topeka, Kansas.
Yes.
I can't just land there and go, all right, well, let's, I guess we'll start over here. Like, well, maybe we'll start over there. I don't know. So it is so exciting to see you jumping in the race, and I cannot wait for the celebratory party for when you're elected chairwoman of the Omaha Young Republicans. Guys, make sure you give Haley a follow. All of her links are going to be in the video description here. I can't wait to see you get elected, and let's make some change in Omaha, and let's maybe make it winner take all. I can't wait.
We're excited. So hopefully everybody will follow along because it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. Haley, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Absolutely. Alrighty, guys, we will be right back.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog beds.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Guys, I want to thank Haley for coming on. Make sure you guys give her a follow. Her social medias are going to be in the comments of this. And I think I may be coming out to Nebraska pretty soon to help her campaign for some other things. Really great kid. I got to meet her at Turning Point USA. Definitely a very good time. So let's keep rocking and rolling here, guys. Once again, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place, wherever you're watching. If you're watching on X, retweet the video. Giddy up. Let's go. So let's talk about Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, obviously, President Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States, passed away yesterday at the age of 100, which is quite the feat. Quite the feat, the age of 100. Obviously, many people today have both good and bad critiques of his presidency. Look, I don't particularly care for dunking on people, particularly 5 seconds after they died. But I think it's safe to say that Jimmy Carter's presidency was pretty much an abject failure. Whether it was the recession, the gas lines, the Iranian hostage crisis, it was an abject failure. Now, with that being said, Jimmy Carter definitely had an inspiring story. He went from local state representative to president of the United States in just 12 years. Many people called him the anybody president. He was able to rise. He wasn't part of the political machine. Everybody knows about his days as the peanut farmer in Georgia. Obviously, like I said, the legacy media will look at him with some starry-eyed view of a political time once gone by. Other people will go out of their way to dunk on him. I will choose to do neither of those. So obviously, Jimmy Carter, prayers out to your family. 100 years. I mean, it's pretty wild. The guy was married for like 75 years. 75 years. That's something unbelievable in today's day and age. So Jimmy Carter, rest in peace. Thank you for your service and for all the amazing work you did with organizations like Habitat for Humanity, doing real good things for people in need. So I'm not going to dunk on Jimmy Carter. Obviously, I've made my feelings well known about his presidency. Not great stuff. But somebody else who had a pretty crappy presidency would be Joe Biden. And the legacy media is currently out there doing yeoman's work. To try and cover or rewrite the history of Joe Biden. Here was CNN trying to do exactly that. Unfortunately for them, they had this guy, Scott Jennings. Once again, if anybody out there knows Scott Jennings, please tell him I want to be him when I grow up.
But Joe Biden's record with regard to the things that he's accomplished, I think will stand the test of time. Now, what my dear friend Scott and others will talk about, and quite frankly, I'm going to say this, on it, rightfully so, it was very disturbing to learn late in the year about just how how poor his health has become. And I, like many, I did not realize that it had gotten to that point. That being said, I think he showed up for the job. He got the work done. I think some of the accomplishments also in the Middle East and foreign policy will also stand the test of time.
You think the Middle East is in better shape today than when he took office?
Well, I think he got our hostages home. I think that's a big deal. I think it's important.
I'm sorry, which hostages?
He's gotten a number of people home. He was able.
There's still 100 people over there.
Well, there were more than
including some Americans. Look, I think he's gonna leave office in disgrace. The Hunter Biden pardon was disgraceful. He's going to be remembered largely for inflation and for the disastrous Afghanistan pullout. And I think as we continue to, we're just getting the first draft of this now, but as we continue to learn about the massive cover-up that went on, not about his health, but about his mental acuity, to cover that up, the efforts that were undertaken by the White House staff, by his family, not in the last couple of months, but for all 4 years, I think it's going to be a really ugly chapter. It's a diminished presidency because of it. And I think we still don't know the full extent of what they did to try to hide what they've been doing over in the West Wing.
So I think leaving in disgrace is when you have an insurrection at the Capitol. Like, that's leaving in disgrace. Being impeached twice is leaving in disgrace. So that's a difference. I think Joe Biden's going to be remembered in the short term for what you were talking about, whether or not he had the capacity to lead, who knew what when. I mean, there are many people outside of the very small network of Anita Dunn and Valerie Biden Owens and Jill Biden and Hunter. There aren't many people who knew the concerns that were there or whether or not he was up or fit for the job. And so those questions will be asked. Over the long term, this is somebody a lot like Mitch McConnell. You don't necessarily have to agree with everything they stood for. You don't have to agree with every vote. But you always knew they put the American people first.
And that's why people like Bakari Sellers do not belong on television anymore. But CNN continues to trot people like that out there. Bakari, is it possible that maybe people didn't know the extent of Joe Biden's mental decline because nobody wanted to ask the question? Nobody wanted to know? Nobody wanted to consider that maybe, just maybe, they were being lied to by the people in the West Wing, obviously Scott Jennings has a brain, and he knows that, but some members of the press are actually starting to figure this out. Here with Jane Crawford at CBS asking just that.
Undercovered, underreported. That would be, to me, Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline that became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned. And, it's starting to emerge now that his advisors kind of managed his limitations. It's been reported in the Wall Street Journal for 4 years. And yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years, which could have led to a primary for the Democrats. It could have changed the scope of the entire election. Yeah. Yet, still, incredibly, we read in the Washington Post that his advisors are saying that he regrets that he dropped out of the race. That he thinks he could have beaten Trump. And I think that is either delusional or they're gaslighting.
President Biden
people.
has said repeatedly he was sick during the debate June 27th in Atlanta, and he's always been fine, and he leaves fine.
Yep, and there's still people trying to cover up for this. Still people who will not admit that the emperor, in fact, had no clothes on the entire time. And it is because of this that nobody trusts any of these people anymore. In fact, things are getting so bad, we're going to talk about this in a second, things are getting so bad for the media's attempt to cover up things for Joe Biden that it's got me agreeing with someone that I do not like, which, I got to be honest with you, is something I don't really feel good about. I don't really feel good about agreeing with this guy. But I got to be honest, when he's right, he's right. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That is your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFA TV related. Guys, check out the LFA TV store. And while you're there, consider becoming a monthly donor over to lfatv.us. That is the best way to help out this network and everything we've got going on. We've got so much good stuff that we want to bring you guys over the next several months, and we can't do it without your help. We can't do it without your help. So head on over, lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. I really do appreciate it. So, Mike Lawler, the man who looks like an 80s porn star, was on CNN talking about the Biden crime family, something that the media has decided to continue to cover up over the course of the last several years. Despite there being overwhelming evidence, people like Abby Phillips, the oppressed woman who went to Harvard, she still seems befuddled, a bit bemused by the fact that, who knew? Nobody knew.
I'm still waiting.
Speculative?
After 4 years of Donald Trump.
Did money not change hands?
Scott.
Did it not?
4 years of Donald Trump, 4 years of a Joe Biden DOJ looking into these very things. I'm still waiting to see.
Well, he can't be charged. He's the president.
Right? I'm
Joe
still
Biden
waiting.
Can't be charged.
I'm not talking about charges. I'm still waiting to see the proof of Joe Biden enriching himself. I take his brother and his son, perhaps.
I'll give you
I
the
think that has yet
direct
to materialize.
line.
Otherwise,
I'll give you the
your
direct
colleague,
line.
James Comer, could have produced the evidence, and he didn't.
He did. A Chinese company transferred money to a shell company owned by Hunter and Jim Biden that then transferred money directly to Jim and Sarah Biden's shell company that then transferred the money to Jim and Sarah's personal account, who then immediately wrote a check for $40,000 to Joe Biden. So to say that there was no evidence, to say there was no evidence is not true. It's not true.
What I'm saying is that Trump was president for 4 years. He wanted to charge Joe Biden. Why did the charges not come? And I think that still remains an open question. If there is something illegal happening here, there should be charges on the basis of what you're saying, and there have not been.
He just pardoned Hunter
that is
for an 11-year time
period. Pardoned Hunter Biden.
An 11-year time period.
He just wiped the slate.
Hang on, guys.
Jim will be next, by the way.
We're waiting for the charges, and when the charges come, we'll have a conversation about that. I promise you that. Solomon Jones, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone else, hang tight. Coming up next.
She still seems completely bemused by this entire thing. There were no charges brought. I'm a guest. I am blown away. And then they have the audacity to look at all of us and wonder why none of us actually believe a word they say. We've had the evidence for a while. Now, with all of that being said, my question to Mike Lawler would be, why have you not brought up impeachment charges on Joe Biden? You certainly could do that, but, I guess that would upset the people over at Lockheed Martin or whoever's ass you have your lips attached to today. Guys, we're going to keep rocking and rolling here in just a second. Before we do that, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. Let's move this bad boy over. Check out all the good stuff we got here. There is so much fun stuff over there over at loudmajorityusa.com, and it is the best and only way to support this organization and everything we've got going on. Everybody seems to love these. These have been selling like hotcakes, if I'm being honest with you. The Jack Daniels Donald Trump t-shirts selling like absolute hotcakes. And for the rest of the week, you guys can get our New Year's discount if you use promo code 2025. That is, you can get 25% off with promo code 2025. That's going to be going on throughout the week, so I do appreciate that. While you're there, guys, make sure you subscribe over at loudmajorityusa.com so that we can keep in contact with all of you. We haven't had enough fear porn in this country in quite some time. So we gotta ratchet one up. We gotta ratchet some up again. And their new tactic is something called the bird flu. The bird flu. Have you guys heard about the bird flu? Well, apparently the bird flu has decided to jump now from birds to people or people to birds. I'm really not sure, but the media, continuing to have to scare us into compliance, has trotted out the Queen of Death, Leana Wen, to let us know just how bad the bird flu is going to be.
Concerning new CDC report on the first severe human case of bird flu in the U.S. Samples taken from a patient in Louisiana show mutations that could make it easier for this virus to spread from person to person. Now, right now, there's no evidence it's been passed along to anyone else, and the CDC says risk to the public remains low.
No evidence, but let's make sure we talk about it.
But experts warn a single mutation like this could potentially lead to another pandemic.
The virus
I don't care.
May mutate and become more easily transmitted person to person. So the more this virus circulates and specifically co-circulates with human strains, that's going to increase the odds of the virus evolving to more human-to-human transmission. And that of course, could signal another pandemic.
Joining us now is Dr. Deborah Birx. You may remember her.
Yes, we remember her as the lady who wore the scarves all the time and was wrong about everything. Let's see who else they bring on.
As the response coordinator for the White House Coronavirus Task Force in the first Trump administration, we are very fortunate to have your expertise as we try to figure out what's
expertise, the woman who was wrong about everything,
going on with the bird flu and what it could mean. So far, 65 human cases of bird flu have been reported in the U.S. this year, all contracted by animals. But now we have this new mutation in Louisiana. How worried should we be about bird flu potentially becoming another pandemic?
Well, I love the way you said 63 cases, because I have no idea how many cases there were or are, because our number one principle in preventing pandemics is detect. And if you go to the CDC website, you can see that they're monitoring more than 10,000 exposures, but they've only tested 530. What does that mean? That means we're not testing enough. And we know from other viruses that a lot of the spread can be asymptomatic. So we kind of have our head in the sand about how widespread this is from the zoonotic standpoint, from the animal to human standpoint. Now, also remember, most of those cases described to date happened in the spring and the summer, not when we had H1N1 circulating right now, when we're running the flu pandemic with throughout the United States. So we have rising flu cases, and now we have still zoonotic events coming. So now you've set up for potentially a farm worker getting H5N1, also getting the current flu strain and reassorting in that individual. To me, that's almost a bigger threat to these mutations happening in individuals over time.
When you say reassorting in that person, what does that mean?
Okay, so
Or it's wintertime and people get sick during the winter. Something we've all known for ever. Something we've all known forever. Guys, it's 2:00. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I want to welcome everybody back into the show. As always, once again, I do want to thank everybody for all the well wishes and all the messages I received over the last couple of days. It absolutely did not go unnoticed. I don't know if you can tell, I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather. Not really 100% yet. So I do want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I will be back live tomorrow. Will Johnson with the Culture Wars is coming up next right here on this network. Until tomorrow, everybody, stay loud.